So today we're going to talk about a really fascinating and kind of radical surgical procedure called a sympathectomy. It's a story about a faulty biological switch, a super high-tech fix, and a trade-off. A trade-off so big that it forces patients into an incredibly difficult choice. Okay, just imagine for a second that your body's fight or flight response. You know, that jolt of adrenaline, your heart racing, the sweaty palms you get before a big meeting. What if that feeling never really switched off? What if being constantly on was just your normal? Well, for about 3% of the population, this isn't some hypothetical question. It is the day-to-day reality of living with a condition called primary hyperhidrosis. It's basically a medical term for excessive, totally uncontrollable sweating that has nothing to do with being hot or working out. And look, we are not talking about just a little bit of sweat here. This can be a genuinely debilitating condition. I mean, can you imagine your hands being so wet you can't give a firm handshake, or you can't hold a pen without smearing ink everywhere, or even just use your phone's touchscreen? It can mess with careers, relationships, and just your basic self-confidence. So what on earth is causing this? Well, as it turns out, the problem isn't on your skin. It's actually deep inside the body's own electrical wiring, the sympathetic nervous system. Right, so this is the sympathetic nervous system. The easiest way to think about it is like it's your body's internal alarm system. It handles all those automatic things that get you ready for action. But in people with hyperhidrosis, it's like that alarm system has a faulty sensor. It's just way, way too sensitive, especially the part that's telling the sweat glands what to do. Now, physically, this system is a chain of nerve clusters. They're called ganglia, and they run right down along your spine. They're like little relay stations, sending out signals. And for people with hyperhidrosis, that sweat now signal is just permanently cranked up to 11. But, and this is the key, because it's a physical chain, it gives surgeons a very real physical target to aim for. And that direct physical target is exactly what makes a surgical solution possible. A keyhole procedure that's gotten incredibly precise over the last 100 years or so. You know, the idea of just cutting these nerves isn't actually new. The first procedures were done way back in the 1920s, but they were these massive, invasive open surgeries. It really wasn't until the 1990s, when video technology and fiber optics got so much better, that the modern minimally invasive procedure we see today really took off. Today, the whole shebang is called video-assisted thoracoscopic sympathectomy, or VATS for short. Instead of some huge cut, surgeons make a couple of tiny incisions, almost like keyholes. They slide a tiny camera in so they can see everything on a monitor, and then, with amazing precision, they find the exact nerve ganglion that's sending out all those bogus signals, and they just interrupt it. They cut the wire, and that sweat now signal goes silent. And the results? They're immediate. They're dramatic. But this is where our story gets really complicated, because this incredible solution comes with a cost that you just can't avoid. Let's start with the good news, though. Just how effective is it? Well, for palmar hyperhidrosis, that's sweaty hands, the success rate is absolutely staggering. We're talking somewhere between 96 and 100%. Patients literally wake up from surgery with warm, dry hands, often for the very first time in their entire lives. And this isn't just some short-term fix either. Studies that look at quality of life show that even 5 years down the road, patient satisfaction is still hanging around 90%. I mean, for a lot of people, this is a truly life-changing procedure. A 96% success rate, 90% long-term satisfaction. It sounds pretty much perfect, doesn't it? So what's the catch? Well, it's a big one, and it's an unavoidable consequence of the surgery itself. It's called compensatory hyperhidrosis. See, your body still needs to regulate its temperature, but now it can't sweat through your hands or your underarms anymore. So what does it do? It finds somewhere else. The sweat glands on your back, your stomach, your thighs, all of a sudden, they start working overtime to pick up the slack. And this is the core dilemma right here. The patient is, in a very real way, trading one problem for another. They get the dry hands they've dreamt of, but in exchange, they might now have to deal with a sweat-soaked shirt or drenched pants every time the temperature goes up. Okay, but the severity of this trade-off isn't totally random. Over the years, surgeons have figured out that where they cut that nerve chain makes a massive difference. Here's the crucial part. Precision is everything. If they interrupt the nerve chain higher up, at the cluster called G2, it casts a really wide net. It works, for sure, but it also causes much, much worse compensatory sweating. They've since learned that by targeting lower down, at G3 or G4, they can still fix the sweaty hands while seriously reducing how bad that side effect is. So the whole surgical strategy is this careful balancing act. For sweaty hands, the target now is G4. You get great results, lower risk. But for something like facial sweating, the surgeon has to target higher at G2, and they do it knowing that the risk of that compensatory sweating is way higher. It's a calculated decision every single time. So how common is this side effect, really? Well, the truth is, some level of it happens in almost every single patient. But for the vast majority, about 95%, it's either mild or moderate. It's annoying, but it's manageable. The real problem is in that last little slice of the pie. Because for a small but very significant group of patients, somewhere between 1 and 4%, the new sweating is severe. For them, the cure truly feels worse than the disease. They've traded a problem they knew, a problem they've learned to live with, for a new, unpredictable, and sometimes even more socially devastating one. Which leaves us with the ultimate question at the heart of this whole thing. It's a gamble, a 96% chance to fix a problem that has maybe plagued you your entire life, but with a small but very real risk that you could end up with a problem you find even worse. So, to solve one problem, would you risk creating another?